Yo, what's up guys? For those of you that don't know me, I have been a challenger player since set 3, and in this video I'm going to be going over my 13.24 flex guide. This guide will be a very concise explanation of how I think you should play in the current meta if you want to climb. So in the previous patch, 13.23, it was basically a fast 9 meta. Everyone was just playing super greedy, trying to play Heartsteel every single turn, and everyone just trying to go 9 and pick up the 5-cost Chosens. Right now, I don't think fast 9 is dead. I think it's still very good, but only if you get like the opener for it. So like, for example, if you're playing like the Scuttle Puddle portal, or if you get like a super econ opener, or you're able to get in like 5 Heartsteel, or if you get like cutting corners, then you should probably still go fast 9 and try to cap out around the legendaries and try to win out. The difference in this patch is that there are a lot more viable 4-cost carries that could actually contest like the 5-cost boards. For example, like Pentakill. They actually do a very good job against playing against the 5-cost boards because they end up wrapping around their front line and killing their back line. Reroll Yone is also very good as well. So I think in the current meta, if you get fast 9, you should still do it. But if you can't go fast 9, you should just default to all the bruiser boards. So for example, the bruiser carries are going to be Viego, Zed, True Damage Akali, Kiana, Yorick, Kayn if you get to 9. And you always want to keep Yone reroll open. So the items you want to slam are stuff like Hodge, BT, Edge of Night. Last Whisper is pretty good as well. Titans is not really good slam, but it's very good as like a third item. And then for AP is also pretty decent as well. Like if you find like a Chosen Senna, you could just go Guinsoo, Shojin, and then you could play into like Karthus, Ahri, very cheap boards at level 8 to get you to level 9. TF is also pretty good. TF is like the best board to abuse all the legendaries at level 8, and you could slowly go 9. I think AD is still like pretty shit. Okay, I think like the standard AD comps are pretty shit. Like you end up playing Caitlyn Ezreal, they're still pretty bad. And then you need a lot of money to go 9 to play into Jhin, and Jhin is like he still gets out capped by like the AP boards and like the bruiser Bill Gates boards. So in my opinion, if you're playing AD, you're usually most likely trying to play towards Reroll Country or probably some variation of like Reroll MF if you have like a Jazz opener. But in the S tier, Bill Gates, Pentakill Spat, and Reroll Yone, these could all win games. They're very, very good. And in the A tier, I would put TF, Vertical True Damage. This comp is S tier if you happen to get a 3-star Senna. KDA is very good just because it's very cheap and allows you to go fast 9 very easily. Honestly, Ezreal Caitlyn should probably be in the B tier. I just didn't want to create a new section, but yeah, this is pretty shit right now. And Reroll comps is just going to be Reroll Annie and Reroll Country. I updated the strong augment since it's no longer like a fast 9 meta anymore. It's like a bruiser meta. And I also, econ guide's still around the same. And I slightly updated like the headliners to reflect like the new bruiser meta to play into like level 9. So for example, the Yasuo is pretty good now in my opinion. He's a very good holder of like the early game bruiser items. Olaf is slightly better, but a lot of the other stuff is just the same. Added a bruiser tree, and then the other shit is the same: AD tree, AP tree. All right, so that's basically it for the intro. Let's jump right into the comps. So first comp I'll be covering is going to be the Pentakill board. I think the Pentakill board is probably the strongest level 8 board right now in the current meta. Reason why is because you're ending up playing around 3 different carries, and chances are you're also going to be able to itemize all 3 of them as well because you're playing around Superfans. Superfans is such a cheap and efficient frontline, and it also gives you a free full item on your carry. And a lot of the time, you're just going to end up with 3 carries by stage 5 with 3 items each. It's actually really, really strong, and it's really hard to outcap this board at level 8 unless you're able to go 9. So itemization-wise, you generally want to stack your Viego with all your bruiser items because it's a bruiser meta. Chances are you're playing into this comp because you slammed a lot of bruiser items. All leftover bruiser items could go on your Akali if you find her, and all of your AP items on your Karthus. So I think Viego, he really likes stuff like 1 healing plus 2 damagey items. You could even go 2 healing, 1 damage items. So for example, BT Hodge plus 1 is pretty decent generally. You go BT Hodge Sterix. You could even throw in GS. It helps him shred through the front line to wrap around their back line. Other good items on him are stuff like Red Buff. You could also go like Edge of Night, Last Whisper, IE. All pretty good on him. And Akali is pretty good at holding like Hodge, IE. Akali's pretty good at holding Red Buff as well. And Karthus generally just likes 1 mana item and 2 AP items. And depending on who your headliner is, you want to flex the remaining 2 items while combining with like your Superfan item. So this comp has like a very, very high cap. The reason why is because when you go 9, you have access to stuff like Kayn and Yorick. But one other way you could cap this board is if you get like a Pentakill spat. If you get a Pentakill spat, usually generally put on Akali. This opens you up to like playing 7 Pentakill. You could probably drop this for Yorick for 7 Pentakill, and your board is basically unbeatable unless like you're fighting a level 9 person with like a fully capped board. Otherwise, like your board also depends a lot on like the chosen you hit. For example, like if you get like Executioner chosen, you don't have to run the Akali. You also have the option of dropping 1 Superfan unit to play a 4th Executioner like Vex. That's not bad either. If you don't get Executioner, if you get like Edgelord, chances are you probably want to play Kale as your Pentakill unit instead. That basically gives you 3 Edgelord because Viego's your main carry, and it helps you maintain 5 Pentakill. You could also get like, yeah, actually, no, that's all the variations. And then at level 9, you usually want to cap out with a board like this if you get Pentakill Spat. If you don't get Pentakill Spat, you just drop like this Spat, this Kale, and just play like 2 random units. Maybe like you play Alawi, you play Kayn, you play Kiana, and then you just cap out with a board like this. Next comp on the list is going to be True Damage. So this comp has not been on the previous Flex Guide videos because it really hasn't been that good until this patch. In this patch, if you happen to get the augment blinged out, then I would probably just hard force the True Damage comp. There are 2 ways to play it in my opinion. The strongest way to play it is if you get a 3-star Senna. I would probably try to play towards 3-star Senna if I have like a lot of Sennas and I hit Senna chosen and I'm not contested, or I get like a champion duplicator. Then I would slow roll at 6 for 3-star Senna, and then after I hit it, I would push 8 and then play a board like this. So this is going to be the super cheap level 8 board that you're going to hit at level 8 once you hit 3-star Senna, because chances are you're not going to have a lot of money to roll and pivot off like these super fan units. But let's say like you do have the money to switch off the shit units, then the board you want to play into is probably going to be a board like this when you go 9. 2nd Executioner, 2nd Rapid Fire, you play Kiana, you drop out of Yasuo, and then you play like a 2nd Guardian, like a better Guardian and a better Blitzcrank. Itemization wise, Senna just really likes Guinsoo's, Nashor's, Shojin, random AP. Generally, if you're playing around Senna during the mid game, chances are you're playing around 3 Superfan units. So it's preferred not to like slam Shojin on her because you're just gonna have 2 Shojins if you're playing around Superfan. So probably stuff like Guinsoo's, Nashor's really good. Akali holds all of your bruiser items. Like I said, it's a bruiser meta. So anything like GS, Hodge, BT, Sterix, Red Buff is pretty good on her. Edge of Night is good, Deathblade. Just put all of your leftover AD items on Akali and she'll do really good. So if you're not playing around the Senna variants, the other variant that you can play around is if you just hit like a random, like let's say like you're flexing between all the bruiser comps and then you're rolling down and you hit like a random Akali, you could just commit to like the True Damage board. The true damage board is actually very flex. You don't actually have to play 6. You just play 4, primary carry your Akali, and then dual carry your Senna, and then play all of the random legendary units, Kiana, Pika Fonder, Guinsoo's on Sona, Lucian. It's the standard like level 9 flex board, and this comp is actually quite strong when you get to level 9. So next comp is going to be Reroll Yone. This is probably the reroll comp with the highest cap in the current meta right now. Probably a bit better than Samir just because it's way cheaper. You only need to hit 3-star Yone and then you just clear every single level 9 legendary board because he just wraps on their backline. Itemization wise, Yone really likes Titans, 1 healing and 1 damage. So for example, I just went Titans, Hodge, IE on him. You could also go like Titans, Hodge, Gunblade. That's not bad either. You go Titans, Hodge, Hodge, Titans, Hodge, Sterix is fine as well. Instead of like, you could also go like BT. It's not bad. So you could go Titans, Hodge, BT. You just slam like whatever like bruiser items you slammed early game, and then you just play into Yone, and then your spot is usually really good. The good part about this comp is you could keep 3 Heartsteel in to get that extra econ to slow roll at level 7 for 3-star Yone. And then later on, you really do want to fuck off like the KDA units. You want to fuck off the Heartsteel units, and you play into the 6 Crowddiver board. That is like the Omega Cap version of this board, and it will generally look something like this. You itemize the Yone, you dual carry the Zed with all of your remaining items. You initially put all of your tank items on your set. Later, you transfer over to Alawi, and then later on, if you find like random items, it goes on like Kayn or Kiana. Okay, so next board at level 8 you can play is going to be the TF board. So the TF board is actually, it starts out very cheap if you just play around 6 Disco. So for example, if you hit like Disco Blitz, Disco TF, you just play around all of like the 1 and 2 cost Disco shitters like Nami, Taric, Gragas, you play random Guardian, Echo, and then Lulu. This gives you a pretty decent board at level 8, and it's pretty cheap as well. And this is good because at level 8, if you're pretty healthy and just slight roll and you hit like a random Blitz 2 and TF1, usually this could allow you to go 9 and then play into the legendary board. But if you're stuck at 8, you could also stay at 8 and just roll down. Eventually, you want to get out of like these disco shitters. So the board you generally want to play towards is actually going to be a board like this with 3 disco. So here you're going to play around 3 disco, so Gragas, TF, and Blitzcrank. And then you play a second Dazzler, Sona, Echo are the 3 Spellweavers, and then this gives you true damage, and this gives you a second Bruiser, a very solid front line. And this is actually a very, very solid level 8 board, not level 9, even if these are 1 costs, that could win you a lot of fights. I think the TF board is probably the best comp that allows you to leverage like these 5 cost legendary units. And this is why also that TF has very, very high cap at level 9. But generally, like the usual game plan is like at level 8, you roll down for TF, cheap board, and then you go 9, and you flip to a board like this, and you generally try to keep the TF chosen and try to hit these 2 naturally, because you're generally going to be like, it's pretty first or 8th to try to sell the TF chosen and then hope for Ziggs chosen unless you're super healthy. So I would say like if you're super healthy playing for the first, you could open sell, play for Ziggs, but if you don't have that much HP, a lot of the times it's better to just keep like the 2-star TF and then roll for like a board like this and like try to 2-star them naturally. Itemization wise, TF likes Shojin, Gunblade, and red buff. He could also go like Shojin, like double AP. This red buff could also be Morello. I think red buff is better on TF because it allows him to auto attack more and spread the anti-heal more. All tank items will just go on your Blitzcrank initially, and then if you have the money, you can flip it over into something like an Alawi. And then later on, when you get your legendaries like Sona, Ziggs, I think you prio Sona items for Gwynsu's. I think Sona is a lot better than Ziggs. Sona kind of just enables the rest of your team to do a lot more damage, and then all of your Spirit AP items could just go on your Ziggs. So next up is the KDA board. Pretty straightforward. It's like the same thing as like the last patch. The strength of the KDA board is that it's super cheap, and the moment you hit like KDA Akali, KDA Ahri at level 8, you just instantly stabilize with a bunch of cheap shitters on your board, enabling you to go 9. Because the only expensive units on your board is your Chosen, Akali or Ahri, and then you have a 2 cost, 2 cost, 1 cost, 1 cost, 3 cost, 3 costs, and then with the gold acting as interest instead of invested into your board, you could go 9 way faster than everyone else and just cap out with a legendary board and win out. That's pretty much it. Itemization wise, Akali really likes red buff, IE and Hodge. And then Ahri really likes 1 mana item and 2 attack speed / damage items. So this mana item could either be Shojin or blue buff. Generally, a lot of the times you're just going to have Shojin because I really think like the only users of blue buff in the current meta is like Ahri or Qiyana. Blue buff is not very good on anyone else, so chances are you're going to have a Shojin instead. So just having like Shojins, GS, Nashers is perfectly fine in Ahri because you're trying to go 9 anyway, right? And play around like a level 9 AP carry with that uses a Shojin. Next up is going to be Reroll Country. This comp is really good if you have like the standard traditional AZ items like Last Whisper, IE, GS. Because like if you go 8, you're going to have to be playing around like Caitlyn, Ezreal, and then like to win out, you have to go 9 and play around Jhin, and you have to find like a full legendary frontline. Chances are you're a lot better off just rolling at level 7 for like a board like this. And like even if you don't hit like Samira 3 or Urgot 3, usually you just bleed out to a 5th. Rather than like trying to go 8 and then capping out with Ezreal and then going 9 and playing for Jhin. This is like a very low risk play, especially if you have like a low roll opener, you don't have that much money. You can stabilize way faster than everyone else at level 4, and then if you're lucky, you could cap out with Samira 3 or Urgot 3. And then if you hit like 3-star Amumu or Set, you can put all of your frontline items on Amumu or Set. I would look towards playing this comp if you have like an Econ opener, if you have Three's Crowd, if you have like Champion Duplicator, you're uncontested, or during your level 7 roll down, you get like Country Samira or Country Urgot. This would be the board you want to play. In terms of priorities, I think Samira is priority 1, then Urgot, and then one of your front lines, either Amumu or Set. I think Amumu is a bit better than Set, and you put all of your tank items on your Amumu. All of your leftover items could go on your Vex. And then after you hit like the main units that you can hit, you just push levels, and then you play like a random shitter. Itemization-wise, Samira really likes IE, Last Whisper, and GS. You put all of the Bruiser items that you slam because it's a Bruiser meta onto the Urgot, and then Vex just holds all of your AP items. Yep, that's about it. Okay, so finally on to the Bill Gates boards. So these boards are the boards you always want to play towards at level 9 if you want to close out games. So like I said before, Fast 9 is not dead, and if you're able to get to 9 with like 2 lives, you almost always should try to play for the win out. So there's 3 main different variations of Fast 9 boards you can play in the current meta. The first board is going to be around Ziggs and Sona. So Ziggs got nerfed a pretty decent chunk. So I actually think that it's more important for you to itemize the Sona and just put all your Spirit AP items on the Ziggs. I think Sona is really, really good right now if you have Gwinsu Shoji on her, because chances are, after she gets her first cast off, your whole team just goes off and it snowballs the game into a second cast, and then you just finish them off with your Ziggs. Like Ziggs, you don't really need to worry about items for him because he's going to do a shit ton of damage anyway as long as your Sona casts. So I would just put like all your tank items on between like Yorick or Alawi, whoever you 2-star first. Prioritize like the correct set of items on the Sona and put all of your Spirit AP items on your Ziggs, all of your Spirit AD items on the Lucian. So if you're playing into the Bill Gates board from an AD comp, you don't play around, you basically play around the Jhin instead. The same game plan, you prioritize Sona items, and then you put all of your Spirit AD items on your Jhin. And your Sona will basically enable the rest of your team to pop off. So I really think like the carry of like level 9 boards is really Sona and not like Ziggs and like Jhin. You just need like a good front line, Sona, and then after Sona gets first cast off, the rest of your units will just pop off. So the other variation that I didn't really talk too much about in my previous video was like the Bruiser Fast 9 boards. I think there's 2 different ones you could play. But like if you hit like a Kayn Chosen, there's like 2 different variations you can play. If you hit like Edgelord, you just tech in like Yone. This opens you up to Crowd Diver and allows you to play 3 Heartsteel with Set. It's actually pretty good, and that extra gold you get from Heartsteel will be able to get you enough gold to finish off like 2-starring your board. And then Lucian could just hold all of your random AD items, and then you just put all your tank items on either your Alawi or your Yorick. The other variation is like if you get like Heartsteel Kayn, then you just play the other Heartsteel is Set, and then you could itemize like the Viego as your secondary Bruiser carry. Because in the Bruiser meta, you probably send a lot of Bruiser items, and then you just itemize your Viego, Yorick with all of your Bruiser items, AP items on the Kayn, and then random items on the Lucian. And this board could also win out like a lot of your games as well. Kayn is actually pretty good, guys. Don't sleep on Kayn. Alright, so this sums up my 13.24 flex guide. If you guys enjoyed this video, again, would really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Twitch. By the time this video is posted, I will be streaming on Twitch, so feel free to drop by if you have any questions or if you just want to say hi. 1 week later, after the meta settles in a bit more, I probably will be releasing a week 2 flex guide for this patch, just because the set is still new, a lot of things that people haven't figured out yet, so make sure you're subscribed to be updated on the next guide. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time.